Good evening, everybody. Whoops, I'm on the wrong chart. That's the chart we're looking for, the Dow. All right, so not too much of an analysis is needed other than the fact that we're still heading down. It didn't do anything that showed us there was a reversal today, but we're right in this area where it reversed before. We're getting toward the oversold area. So I don't think that means we're going to get a reversal. We might get a bounce down here. So I covered a little bit of the short positions today. But here's what's really going to tell us the direction of the market. Look at our NASDAQ. Obviously, right in this area is the support level. With a doji, makes this a pretty easy analysis knowing the doji rule. They open it lower and start taking it lower. That means we're going to have a bearish doji sandwich of that magnitude. That tells you this level is not acting as support. On the other hand, if they open it positive, it tells us at least they might be supporting here. We might see some bouncing back up to the T-line. So it allows you to move a lot quicker. Try to make a decision of which way to go. The S&P 500, kind of the same scenario. We're right in this range right now. Have to see how they open things tomorrow. Now, so far tonight, they're showing the pre-market futures, or the Dow futures are up 150 points, but that doesn't really mean anything. You can see what it did yesterday, or over the last 2 days. The futures were actually open all day yesterday, but you can see they took this way up, and then they took it way down, and then they opened it right about this level. So it doesn't really matter what the pre-market futures are doing in the after hours. It's where they open it that's important. So in these market conditions, I would be predominantly short. However, we can see the J-hook pattern setting up in GOGL the other day. And we have one criteria that really makes it easy for us to keep from being in the wrong direction at the wrong time. The T-line. As long as we're above the T-line in a pattern, we can stay long. Now, I've got this one to illustrate the wrong chart. Let's see. Wanted this chart. Wrong chart. Try it again. This chart. Here's a very good example of when to close out a position. Nice J-hook pattern. It opened positive and traded positive. So you always can use the graphics of the candlestick charts to tell you who's in control. As long as they were trading above where they opened, producing a green candle, you pretty much see, yep, oh, hurry up, get in your seat, and you can pretty much see where the bulls are in control. But very easy analysis is, as soon as it came back down through the open, what did that tell you about the bullish sentiment? That's right, he has to stay late. Tells you the bears are taking control, you close out the position. So this is just a high probability analysis. But if it's trading positive, doing what you expect it to do, if they come back down through the open, that's telling you there's trouble in River City. Close it out. Now, I say that because I know it's painful sometimes to get into a position and say, oh man, I'm finally doing good, and then it turns around and you think, well, maybe it could still be doing this. No, when they came back down through the open, that told you the bulls had disappeared. Close out the position. That's just a high probability result when you come back down through that open. We recommended, what did we recommend? Oh, SND. All right, we recommended this because you can see the best friend signal. You can see it consolidated right back to the T line. It looked pretty good. But this is why you don't buy because you see the signals forming. You buy when you see the signal that formed is being confirmed. When this opened lower, which was also a function of the market opening lower, I told you that this is not going to be a good trade. Stay out. So not only do the candlestick signals illustrate when it's time to get into a good trade, they also tell you when not to get into a trade that is not confirming what you expect to be happening. And this one, even though it wasn't real strong today, you can still see the pattern. And so once you see that pattern, fry pan bottom, kind of a trend kicker breakout, what's the rationale? You just stay long as it doesn't close below the T line. And here is one that we illustrate because of the added confirmation that when they're in a fry pan bottom and you've done a signal like a belt hold, which essentially means they've wiped out a lot of the sellers. Notice what this one has done, even with the market kind of cratering over the last week or so. They haven't been able to close this below the T line. But this signal right here, a big bullish engulfing belt hold signal, gives you a lot of information. That belt hold is just kind of an additional confirmation that the bulls are definitely in control. And I'll skip ahead. The reason we recommended shorting this one is because you can see the fry pan bottom, the dumpling top, then you had a bearish belt hold signal, kind of enhancing the pressure to the downside. Now, look what it did today. Did a doji right here at the same level it bottomed out before. The difference is we're not quite in the oversold area compared to it being over here. Now remember, stochastics don't mean anything relative to each other. It's the illustration of what is going on in the current market trend. So just because there was a, what do I say? I can't think of the word. But because it was oversold here and you saw a buy signal, that doesn't mean it's not working as well. I'm saying this all wrong, so I'm going to go get away from trying to. But the stochastics here have nothing to do with the stochastics here. The price here has a lot to do with the price there. So, but this makes the analysis pretty easy again. If this opens lower, what do we expect coming out of a dumpling top? A strong force to the downside. On the other hand, if they open this positive and start trading positive, what's the other conclusion? Again, this is a support level. If you were short, you close out the short position. So things that were acting strong, Halliburton, for example. A lot of the oil stocks, even though crude oil was still trading decently positive, didn't really sell off, a heck of a lot of the oil stocks sold off pretty hard. So somebody asked me a question. No, it was on the YouTube. They're asking, why do you think the gambling stocks are going to be sold off? And my answer to them was, it didn't matter what I think. The charts were showing that they were starting to sell off the gambling stocks. So I'm going to skip a few spots here. When you see this type of move, what should you assume as far as the pressure of the trend? It's a strong downtrend. Is this a reversal signal? Not really. That's just an up day and a downtrend. So here's a very good entry strategy. If you see this open lower tomorrow and trade lower, you can be shorting it, because that tells you this force is still in progress. This just happened to be a profit-taking day. We saw that in this one, where they sold it off hard. Then they did a bullish day, and then today when it opened lower, I pretty much told you that trend was still in moving in the right direction, or moving in that direction. And I'm trying to think of any bullish charts, and I don't have. No, can't think of any. I didn't check the gold stocks. Yep, they're all kind of indecisive. All right, we'd recommended this one for a bunch of reasons. I say a bunch of reasons. You can see there was kind of a support level here that they broke through, which also meant they broke through the 50 and they broke through the T line. That's right, Rhythm was still moving up today. But the fact that it broke down and failed at the 50, I mean, that is observe the obvious. Had kind of a hanging man signal, and then a close below the T line, broke this level. Now they're breaking this level. That just makes you assume there's still more downside. Now you have that same 2 plus 2 analysis. If this opens lower, what do we got going on? A bearish doji sandwich telling us this level right here is not acting as support anymore. Yeah, I saw Rhythm. I'm not in it, but you can see what created the strength in Rhythm. There's your best friend signal. There's your best friend signal. Now, it did hit the first target, which means if they open this lower and start trading lower, that's a good indication that 50 was the resistance level. We stayed predominantly short. AFRM was the magnitude of that bearish signal, and nothing yet to show you there's a reversal. Now, where would we close out this short position? Right here. Got a doji in the oversold area. If they start showing enough strength to bring it up through that level, close it out and move on to something else. So, what was I trying to illustrate with this earlier? Oh, the fact that you had a bearish kicker signal tells you you're probably in a downtrend until you see a strong reversal signal. Saw that same thing over here in Facebook. You just logically think what this is telling you. They don't like this stock anymore. They want to get out. And that investor sentiment isn't changing. It usually persists for a while. So there's your bearish kicker signal on KPTI. which means there's probably a very strong force to the downtrend, at least bringing you back into this range, which would be a good 25–30% lower to the downside. I've got DWAC on here later. I'll get to that next. So a lot of the ones we recommended going short is part of that observe the obvious. Bearish Harami shooting star, failure at the 50, failure at the T-line, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. These are all this high probability trade setups for shorts. Bearish engulfing after a shooting star, a bearish flutter kicker signal, first target right here. If it breaks that, what do you got going on? Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 could go much lower. Now obviously this is going to be a function of what the markets in general do. AKTS. Oh, hanging man, Harami. And where did this fail? At the 50th. Everybody's watching. That one can be shorted on weakness. AGL. Hanging man. Failure right at the 50. Logical target down into this area. So this is not difficult analysis. If we can see sell signals at the appropriate spots, in this case, this one failed with indecisive trading at the 34. Another one that has a doji sandwich or a doji support based upon how they open this tomorrow. So if you were short and it opened and traded above today's high, you close it out. If it opens lower, figure you've got wave 3 now in progress. CVS, bearish kicker signal. You just stay short until you see a reversal confirmation. Net, bearish engulfing, failure at the T-line. Another one that has the prospects that if it opens lower tomorrow doing a doji sandwich, first target right here, fill in the gap, and then possibly lower. Oh boy. Was it GTLB? Try GTLB. And Castle, another one with that bearish best friend. Broke through this level. But now look what we got going on. The oversold area, spinning top, doji. If you were short, you put your safety stop above, just above today's high. The biggies like Apple, still in a downtrend. Amazon also has the prospect of a bearish doji sandwich. Netflix, as you can see, has never been able to get back up above the T-line. So notice what happened here. Bad investor sentiment. They tried to bring it back up, but when they came back below the T-line, look what happened. This is just like the opposite of if you see a strong uptrend and then you find out where the bulls and the bears get in control, then it kind of goes flat for a while. Hold on to your individual ones. Let me get through the ones that I know what I'm talking about. Tesla, you stay short. And NVIDIA. So now you have to watch. Your stochastics are still heading down. You open right on the 200. After your hanging man, close below the T-line. Where was your first obvious target? The 200. Now that could be an inverted hammer. but you're not in the oversold area. So now you have to watch to see how they open. If they traded this back below today's low and tomorrow's trading, that's telling you this is just with a bounce. You could be going short with much greater confidence. All right, I saw earlier that IRNT had a nice signal, but I think, did they report earnings after hours? Let me take a gander here. No, apparently not. That wasn't the one. So there's your bullish engulfing, which now brings me into the segue for this weekend. We're going to be going extensive study of the bullish and bearish engulfing signal. Now, the reason we're doing just one major signal is not so much that you won't recognize a signal recognize a signal, but that gives us more time to go into the, I guess, the logic that surrounds identifying a candlestick signal. So, is this a bullish engulfing signal, even though it's not anywhere near the oversold area? Well, we have to look at this one on the basis that what was everybody else watching? They were watching to see what was happening here at the 50. So even though we might not have a bullish engulfing in the oversold area, we've got a bullish engulfing that's telling us something at a level that is relevant, like a resistance level. So that's the type of thing we're going to be going into in the next mini training, which is Saturday. So we scheduled this quite a few weeks ago, knowing that Saturday is going to be cold and dreary and ugly weather. You want to sit inside anyways. And DWAC came out of the chute opening positive. I guess they, Gail, everybody else has a screen, so you need to figure out whether you are on screen sharing or something else. That's right, I always use the old Farmer's Almanac. So, what does this chart tell us? Well, it wasn't a great bullish chart today because it opened well below where, or closed well below where it opened. However, look where it consolidated to. Right smack dab to the T-line. So what were they doing? Were they selling this off, or were they buying it during the day? That's where the 10-minute chart becomes much more effective as far as identifying what it was doing. So it spiked up, it pulled back, and then you can see after that they weren't really selling it off. So that still gives you, yeah, kind of a message that that if this opened positive tomorrow, probably has some more upside. Where would you watch to see the next level? I'd watch to see if they can break out through this level. If they do, you probably got a lot more upside. Hecla did kind of a kicker signal today, a kicker signal right off the 50, which, what does that imply? Pretty much implies that's your next target. All right, so remember, we're looking for the strongest charts that are going to perform depending on, or not even depending on what's the market, direction of the market. This one becomes a very high probability trade for going lower because of the bearish kicker signal. And QDEL, as you can see, did a kicker signal on Friday. The market sold off hard today, but look what this individual stock did during a sell-off day after a kicker signal. So that's why you want to always identify the signals as your first criteria to at least put yourself in situations that if you didn't want to be 100% long and you were looking for a few trades to be, I'm sorry, you didn't want to be 100% short in this downtrending market, at least go after the strongest bullish signals, because they may not go up with any great enthusiasm. It was, but they would go up if they started reading what WB was it Q before QDEL, was it KPTI, the bearish kicker signal. There you go. Now I forgot what I was saying. OCGN backed off going into the close, but then it started climbing back up. So you probably want to keep an eye on this one. And PRVA, there's your inverted hammer gap up. There's your classic pattern. Where do you think your next target's going to be? Up here. Oh, that's right. Let me take a, I saw that they took it down hard, but then they brought it back up a little bit. Yeah, because they actually brought it all the way down here, and now they've started bringing it back up a little bit. Oops, now, okay. SD, well, this one on the other chart was right up to the 50. Now you watch this one for a bubble breakout, not so much on this chart. This one I'm also using as an illustration. You're not in the oversold area. They traded it up, but did that change the direction of the downtrend? No, you want to still see what happens tomorrow. Because even though they might take something up, if they open it lower the next day, that's a high probability that trend is going to head higher. Oh, Pashal, that's not the right one. I guess this one would have been on the basis. Oh, I've got this one for a stop loss type situation. If it opened here and traded up, it was still in an uptrend. So here's where you use the common sense of the fact that when it came up here, if it came back down through the open, what was that telling you? That indecisive trading up here in the overbought area, and they failed at the 200 and started selling off, what was that immediately telling you? They weren't going through the 200. It was time to close out that trade. Okay. The bearish engulfing signal. One of your 12 major signals. That tells you overbought area, close back below the 50, close back below the T line. If you were astute, you would have had your safety stop here, or your safety stop here, or your safety stop here. If you're ready to, I guess this is what I was trying to point out on YouTube, is not only does this provide you with visual identification of when there might be a reversal, but it also makes you mentally prepared to say, all right, there's a signal. It's up here in the overbought area. I don't have to sit here and think about it. Close it out. And so that was more to have to illustrate that if you know when to close out because of a signal, now you're not being a victim to your own emotions or wondering what to do. You move actively and you go find another trade set up, like another bullish engulfing signal someplace. Jim, it could also be a short position, yes. So the logic here would be that if they did a bearish engulfing signal right at the 50, that alone was evidence, but the fact that they did it at the 50 and the T line, that told you there was a reversal. That's when you get ready to start shorting. So we're starting to see that in things like Alcoa, bearish engulfing. If this opens lower tomorrow, you could probably be shorting it with the idea that it's coming back to one of these support levels. So there are some good short setups. Here's another one that obviously failed at the resistance level, which in this case was this little resistance level and the 50. If this starts trading lower and not supporting at the 200, you figure you're coming back to this level. ATOM. Failure at the 50. Wave 1, wave 2. If this is opens weaker tomorrow, at least there's your first target, and there's potentially your second target. IDT. Observe the obvious. A bearish flutter kicker off the 200 through the 50. Couldn't get back up through the 50. So there's your little slow curve. Now what are we looking for? Wave 1, wave 2, going into wave 3. And this rocket, the fact that they failed here at the T-line and gapped it down right to this level makes this very simple. If they open this one lower, they're going to be continuing that downtrend. AUPH. Observe the obvious. A shooting star right at the 50. It closed below the T-line. Wave 1, wave 2, the start of wave 3. And this one you will probably see on the recommendation list tomorrow. Canadian Solar, kind of a bearish flutter kicker, a gap down through this level. First target right here, second target could be much lower. And PubM, bearish flutter kicker signal through the moving averages. Wave, or first target right here, which would be approximately a 15%, but then you could have this move right here. So does this mean that every trade we see is going to be wave 1, wave 2, wave 3? Definitely not. But what it does indicate is the probabilities are that it's heading in that direction. Maybe it only comes to here. But then if it goes through there, we've got the prospects. So I'd rather have my positioning where if it does work, or at least it looks like it's working, I'm going to make a profit. If it supports here, all right, it wasn't as big a profit I wanted, but if it does break through there, now I've got a big profit potential. So this one will also be on the recommended list to go short on weakness tomorrow. And that's because you've got immediate trades that we could see that were illustrating that same thing. So this one, when it broke through that level, gave us the potential of wave 1, wave 2. And how did wave 3 start? With a strong move to the downside. Okay. Right now, these markets are not showing us anything yet that would indicate there is a change of investor sentiment. It could be supporting. It could be getting into the oversold area. But so far, it's not doing anything. So you just watch with a little bit more, I want to say, diligence or attentiveness to see what they do. Now, tonight, it's up 123 on the Dow. But remember, this doesn't mean a hill of beans until we see what it's doing 7 minutes before the market opens tomorrow. That's when everybody's making their decisions. Okay, so we're going to be kind of enhancing everybody's ability to recognize what the confirming indicators are for specific signals and patterns. And I shouldn't say specific, because the reason we're going to be delving into the bullish and bearish signals is that we all recognize them. Now we want to kind of enhance our ability to see when they're performing and what's the confirming indicators or the confirming conditions of the market to make those even stronger situations. So if I see the market just now turning over and I see a bearish signal, that just improves the probabilities that signal is going to confirm. Okay, so are there any general questions on candlestick analysis? Oh, Marshall. Well, yes, you've got that kind of that confirmation that they failed here with a little, not a real strong signal, but probably a good indication that the failure at the 50 tells you this downtrend is still in progress. But I would rather go with something that has a much stronger signal to it. Where kind of same analysis here, but we can see we've actually got a little stronger signal, bearish flutter kicker signal. When do you use volume in your analysis? YM, you don't really have to. First of all, we've already created our trading universe using volume to make that universe. We're only buying stocks that trade on average more than 200,000 shares a day. So the concept of people saying, well, I'd rather see volume go up as the price goes up, is not anything relevant. Because if the stock price is going up and nobody wants to sell, it's going to go up on lower volume. Now, the only time volume does become a critical factor is, let me figure out one that has a, what was, oh, I'm thinking. Oh, was it Chewy? For example, if on this day, and I don't have volume on these charts, but there was a big volume spike compared to what it normally traded, yeah, that's a pretty good indication that there's been a major change of ownership, that the reversal has occurred. DWAC, right now, if you're long, you can notice what's happening on this trend up. They really haven't been able to close it decisively below the T-line. Yeah, did they do that on Chewy? Let me take a gander here. Yeah, they did have. So anytime I see a big volume day, the day of, the day before, the day after, that's a pretty good indication there's a major change of ownership. Let's see. J, yes, and that's what we usually call blow-off day. Usually when you see a big move to the upside or a big reversal signal and huge volume, call that a blow-off day. That's where everything's kind of just blowing off, and that's usually the reversal. Now this was not. This was not a kicker signal. That's your best friend signal. On February 6th, best friend signal, when to buy. On the 17th, well, you might not have found it that day. So if I was doing my scans that night and said, oh, that's the best friend reversal, stochastic's coming up, now I'm ready to make my decision. If they start trading this positive the next day, I can start buying. Okay. Oh, no, I didn't do all of them. Hold on. This one, again, there's your bearish kicker signal on APPS. There's your break of that that support level. Where do we think our first target would likely be? Right down here. Marshall, yes. Now, I don't use the cloud, but you can put it on there if it doesn't bother anything, to just add as an additional analytical tool to see where things might go. And so the Bitcoin area kind of selling off. There's Coin. There's Riot. Riot selling off, and Mara selling off. Now that's the most convincing, because look where your shooting star failed, right there at the 50. And ENVX. There's your rollover. There's your bearish doji sandwich. Almost. So if this opens lower tomorrow, you got a good prospect of wave 1, wave 2, going into wave 3. Okay. No other questions on candlesticks? Jim, go ahead and do the double line. And then 4.2 seconds, do the next double line. Genko, you could go short on this one, but especially if it breaks this level. But I was a little bit more convinced on this one because you could see the signal had broken out of the trading range, and I don't think First Solar. Oh. First Solar, you just stay short. Advanced Micro, kind of a nothing chart. Probably wouldn't be long or short. WSC, you could be short on this one, especially anticipating going to the 200. Whirlpool, probably be less apt to be short this one because you're still in the range, and it's not a very exciting trader. It's an institutional trader. Black & Decker, if you're short, I would stay short. If you like shorting it, you can. I would just be a little bit more, yeah, it's more of a drifting lower. Let's see, KFRC. Bullish, Engulfing. Avaro, you could go long on this. Again, I wouldn't be aggressively going long on charts that aren't really compelling in this downtrending market. If you see it trade stronger, you could buy it. You could go short on this bearish doji sandwich following the failure. That would be a good looking short. Coop. Ready to go short? You could. It still needs to break the T line. And PSN, that's a good support at the 50, doing kind of your classic pattern. Expectation is the 200. Blink, you could go short on Blink. NIO, you could go short on NIO. Lie, you could go short on Lie. And Nikola could short that one. The lithium stocks are also selling off. CDK, that's a good best friend breakout. If you like this one, you could be buying it on positive trading tomorrow. Just don't let it close back below the 200. Same scenario here. Good gap up, buy on positive trading. If you want to go against the market, this one would be the better of the of all of them with that best friend gap up. Walter, I guess I'll ask you the question. Where should you have closed this position? Lift, you can go short. I thought Home Depot's earnings were pretty good. Didn't they beat estimates? But this is why you always want to see what the chart is telling you. Ford is kind of dead in the water. Right now, I wouldn't be long or short. Just nothing there. Did we do AMD? That's kind of a nothing chart. I'd be someplace else. AMGN. Oh boy, that's, if you're short, you get ready to cover this on any signs of strength. AMAT, you could go short on weakness tomorrow. Bearish doji sandwich. And Roku, this is the type where you really don't know what to do. They may be bouncing it, but remember, they've been damaged. So I would be more apt to be ready to go short, especially if it came back down through today's open. Otherwise, I would not be long or short this one right now. And MP, having a tough time, obviously, getting up through the 50, and it closed below the T-line. If you were long, if this opens lower tomorrow, you close it out. I don't know whether I'd go short just yet, but I wouldn't want to be long. Kind of a belt hold. I say kind of. The fact that they opened it lower and took it back up above the T-line, opened it lower and took it back up above the T-line, tells you the bulls are still in control. You just stay with it. Remember, every time they do something like this, they've wiped out another series of sellers. MMI, you can stay long on this one. That's right. Is this one of the shipping companies, or it's or natural gas? I would just stay long, and I would be a buyer of this one on positive trading. Nice fry pan bottom. You stay long on this one. Why is my entry missed twice already? Yeah. Walter, that was we were asking you that question. Where should you have closed out fuel cell? Lie, get ready to go short on weakness. This is not really anything exciting. That's not a reversal. That's just a big up day. Nothing to get excited about. Best friend versus bullish engulfing. Which is stronger? The best friend signal. But the bullish engulfing is also very relevant. That's why we put it into the category of the 12 major signals. There you go, Walter. Look where you were. You were up in the overbought area. And then on this day, it closed back below the 50 and right here at the T line, stochastic's heading down, that's where you would have closed it out. Because what can you assume from that chart right there? They're probably not going up. Not unless you got real lucky and they reversed it. That's where you would have closed it out. What's the worst case scenario? If they brought it back up through this level, you know the probabilities of going back in your favor. That's when you could have been buying it back if you liked it. Costco. You could short this one with the expectation that they're heading to the 200. And Best Buy, big breakdown. And they broke down through this level. That just looks like wave 2 going into wave 3. All right. Except I thought I saw the CEO of Home Depot say that their earnings looked like they were still going to be real good because everybody was fixing up their homes and that sort of thing. But this is why I always tell people, don't do what you think is the right thing. Do what the chart is telling you. That's not anything more than experience. There's been so many times I thought, oh man, these are great earnings. Things are going to work out, and then bam, they go the other way. C's, this opens lower, you could short it. And Six Flags, that one you can short on weakness. Just expect it to come back down at least to the moving averages. Lowe's, that's probably moving in sympathy with Home Depot. Yeah, I'm sure it is somewhere where you could have downloaded it. If you're having trouble, just email Abraham at candlestickforum.com. Whoops. J, there you go. It's not in the oversold area. So what is this day? This is probably just an up day and a downtrend. So remember, you had strong selling. They gapped it down. They couldn't get back up above the T line. Your suspicion or your expectation should be you're still in a downtrend. That's what I was trying to illustrate over here on this one, that even though it had an updated day after that big gap down, you're not in the oversold area. You could be shorting this one if things open weaker tomorrow and it starts trading weaker. Bill, that's exactly right. And that's why on things that I sit there and think, oh man, this one's really working well, but as soon as I see that reversal signal, it's not what I think should be happening. It's what I should be analyzing, what everybody else thinks should be happening. Okay, guess that's about it for tonight. Oh, we did it in 1 hour. Jace, have you not been listening? Where does a piercing signal occur? SAIA, stay short. Yes, you can see that it failed here. Where does a piercing signal occur? Remember, a signal is not a signal unless it's occurring in the appropriate conditions. A piercing signal in the overbought area doesn't mean a hill of beans. You want to see, so you've got a bearish gap down, positive trading. This one's still implying that if this opens lower tomorrow, you could be shorting it. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing, is going into that extensive analysis of where is the signal occurring and what other indicators do we use to enhance the probabilities that signal is working or going to work correctly. So that whole process is not so you just identify the signal. It's so when you identify the signal, you are already applying your mental awareness. That's the wrong way to say it. You already should be aware of what could happen with a high probability and what would confirm the that signal. All right, everybody. We will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. We'll see you then.